Hi, I'm Adam and welcome back to First Man Photography. Now in today's video we're talking all about panorama photography. I'm going to take you through the whole process, how to capture panoramas, how to stitch them together in post-processing, and then most importantly, how to print it at the end, because panoramas don't always look great on a screen, but when you print them, they can turn into one of the most stunning pieces of photography artwork you will ever produce. We've got some absolutely stunning conditions for the image we're going to take today, so I would absolutely love it if you were to come with me. Let's go. Before we get going today though, this video is sponsored by Canon. We're going to be making that print towards the end of the video using the Canon PRO-1000 with its panoramic printing capabilities, so stick around for that. Set up, and I don't really want to waste any time because these conditions possibly aren't going to last long at all. We've got the cloud hanging in the valley, that kind of inversion. It's an amazing morning, so I don't want to waste any time. So I have set up for my panorama, and the most important thing when you are panning the camera around is to have your tripod completely level. We want to get that image just stitched together as best we possibly can, and if you have your camera spinning around on a bit of an angle, then it will still stitch together, but you'll lose parts of the image. So we want to get a nice, stable, level platform. We then have the technical issue of parallax shift. Now, this is generally not something I worry about. I think if you do your panoramic photographs handheld, you don't necessarily need to worry about it. But if you are interested in getting technical perfection, this is parallax shift. It's where the background moves at a different speed to the things in the foreground. Now for the slider shot like this, that looks great, but we don't want that in our panoramas. So basically what you need to avoid parallax shift is have the rotation occurring around the nodal point of your lens. Now it's different for each lens, but I'm lucky because with this lens and with this lens mount, that pretty much mounts it over the nodal point. So when I have it vertically, I can rotate and it will rotate around the nodal point, which means I can totally avoid parallax shift. Like I say though, I don't particularly think that's something you need to worry about, but I don't want to miss this scene, so I'm shooting it vertically because that will allow me to get the most resolution out of this image. So I'm expecting here to take around 20 shots, so I'm just going to start shooting it, and then all I do when I'm taking my panoramas is move a third of the way into the scene each time, and I'm just using the rule of thirds on the back of my camera to make that work for me. And then I'm going around taking shots using a 2-second timer because I don't want the camera moving and I want it to be nice and level to help it all stitch together. The other important thing is that you need to shoot in manual because you don't want your exposure changing between each different image. So what I do for that is I will set my exposure on the brightest part of the image, which at the moment is behind me there where the sun's reflecting directly off that cloud. The other important thing that we need to do in manual is to use manual focus, or at least use autofocus and then switch in to manual mode, because we don't want that focus shifting between each different frame that we take, because again that could look funny when we stitch it together, or the computer will fail to stitch it together, and then it's just a case of going round and hoping, especially on a day like today, that the conditions don't change too much while we are doing it. I also like doing my panoramas with this 70 to 200mm lens, because if you were to do this scene with a wider angle, you'd end up with loads of the foreground in, loads of the sky in, and they're not the elements of interest in this scene. It's this band of content, this band of interest along here where the cloud is, where the horizon is, where these little valleys are. So that's what I'm focusing on, and the 70 to 200mm lens lets me get in there to do that. But there we go, one more I think. Right, and that will do. Let's have a very quick look and rotate that round. The light is lovely. So I'll show you that image now, show you some of the detail in there, and then we'll get back to the computer and I'll show you how I stitched it together before we then concentrate on making a print using the Canon PRO-1000 with its panoramic printing capability, and it's going to turn into a huge and beautiful piece of work. So to stitch my panoramas together, I import them into Lightroom, give them a blue label so I know what I'm dealing with, and then down to Photo, Merge and Panorama. You can now see how well you've done, of how much white space there is. We can use fill edges, which does a kind of content aware fill. I don't use that one very much. Or auto crop will just get rid of the white space. But the one I normally use is the boundary warp, and that works particularly well for landscapes where you're not going to have many straight lines. Then we have the projection method. I generally use spherical. That's where it is kind of projected onto the inside of a sphere. Cylindrical, this is good for wider shots where you want to maintain straight lines. Perspective is good for maintaining straight lines as well, but generally won't work as well on a wider image. I use spherical because it works well for landscape images. It's then just a case of clicking merge, and Lightroom does its thing and merges all of your images into that panorama. Then through the magic of video, we have our finished edit. You can see some of the settings that I've used here, and it was a bit too green for me, so I've pulled some of the green out of the image, giving it that slightly warmer tone which matches the mood and the light I had at the scene. I then go to plug in extras, Canon Professional Print and Layout, and it's time to print the image. We'll go through the printing process in the next section, but as you can see here, I think that has come out as a very beautiful print. I particularly love the colour and the mood of the scene, but as you can see, the detail is just beautiful, even when viewed up really close, because we've stitched those images together and we have a really high resolution photograph with all its glorious detail. I'm really chuffed with this image. Now, as you know, this video is sponsored by Canon, and specifically their range of Pro printers. And I recently did a video comparing 3 of them, but one of my favourite features these printers have is their ability to print panoramic images using roll paper. The Canon PRO-200 and PRO-300 have a maximum length of just under 1 meter, and the PRO-1000 can go as long as 1.2 meters, which is what we are going to do in just a second. And it's always so exciting to see them come out. Another benefit of using Canon printers is they all come with Canon's professional print and layout software. I actually think it's one of the best features of Canon printers because it just makes it so easy. You can open it up as a standalone or as a plugin from Lightroom, and then you can easily select the size you want, the layout you want. You can use your ICC profiles and also create custom sizes, which is what we're going to do now on the PRO-1000. So we're going to use this image here because it was one of my favorite ever days of photography, capturing incredible conditions in the company of some beautiful deer stood with a friend on the side of a Scottish mountain, freezing conditions, warmed up with a wee dram of whiskey, not a breath of wind. It was very, very special. We just find the image in Lightroom and load it up into Canon Professional Print and Layout software. And what I found is best for printing panoramas is to set a custom size. So we go down to size, select custom, and then we just set it to the max, which in this case is 1200 millimeters wide, and then just drag the image to fill the paper. If you shot the photograph like we discussed earlier, this will still be smaller than the native resolution of your image. It's therefore not going to do any enlargement on your picture, so you're still going to get maximum quality even when you view it close Oh. I drag it right to the edge to maximize the use of the paper. The printer will still leave a small border, which will make it perfect if you want to frame it. And what I also find useful is to have some excess at the two ends of the image, so you have plenty of space to cut the paper down to size later and not damage the actual printed area itself. Once we've done that, it's then just a case of feeding in the roll paper, and today we're using what is my favourite paper, and that is the Canson Infinity Barita Photographique 2. It's a beautiful semi-gloss paper, and then it's just a case of hitting print. So the print's starting to come out, and more than any other time I do printing, I just get so excited seeing these panoramas come out of the printer, because I think it's partly to do with the size, because it's just so big and it brings these images to life in a way that just doesn't happen on screen. It's so exciting. It builds the anticipation, waiting to see that final thing and get it in your hand. But I think that is looking very, very good. So there we go. I'm absolutely thrilled with this. And it's actually the first time I've ever printed this picture this big. Can you see it? Try not to reflect it off the light. It's too big. I'm gonna have to put that down. I liked this image as a digital file, but I love it in print, and it brings the thing to life. I can look across the scene and it feels like I'm there again. If you've never printed a panorama before, I would implore you to give it a try, because it's just magical seeing photography in this way. But when your work comes out these Canon printers, and especially in this Pro-1000 version with that A2 width, it's just a seriously impressive piece of artwork that's going to guarantee a wow factor for your work wherever you display it. So please check out the Canon printers via the link down below, and give Canon some love for sponsoring this channel. I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye.